talk about that.
I'd like to call the Washington County Planning Commission meeting for February the 7th to order. Everyone please stand up for pledge of allegiance. David, you want to lead us pledge of the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Now we have the roll call.
Roger Hagan,
Here.
James Ursery, looks like either he's going to be late or excused due to him being a lineman in the weather. So we'll just say excused. Al Cohen,
Here.
Jim Ackerman,
Here.
David Morris,
Here.
Mike Park,
Here.
John Gay,
Here.
Victoria D'Angelo,
Here.
Hank Hamilton,
Here.
Cliff Nauer is excused, and planning secretary is present.
All right. Glad to have everybody here tonight, even through the storm. Good to see you. We just made it. At this time, we'll have the approval of the agenda for February the 7th. We've had a chance
I
to
just
look over
have an item over here on the minutes. It should say December 6th, 2016 instead of December 8th, 2016. It was just a typo.
Approval minutes should be December the 6th.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Minutes have been approved for tonight. We'll have the approval of the minutes, of the past minutes for December the 6th. We'll do them one at a time. December the 6th, then January the 10th, and then January 17th. Any corrections? Changes, corrections?
Doing them one time.
No, we'll do them all at once.
I move the adoption of the previous minutes.
Motion's been made to adopt. Here a second?
Second.
Here a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Questions from the floor. Effective October the 1st, 2000.
I thought we were doing the minutes one by one.
No, we changed it. We did them all
Oh,
at
okay.
once.
Do them all at once?
You gotta stick up, guys. Stay
Oh
up.
my gosh.
You gotta stick up. All right, if anything from the floor, if anybody wants to speak that's on the floor that isn't on the agenda, if you'd like to sign in back there and then come up and see Victoria, we'll make sure you get in there. All speeches have to be like 3 minutes. If you need more time, we'll have to talk.
There are two in front of you
Two in front of
already.
this, is that these people?
Mhm.
I got you. All right. This time we'll have the Board of County Commissioners report from Ms. Victoria.
Okay, at our last meeting, you had approved the conditions the Towerco LLC recommended to the board for approval with those conditions, and the board did approve with the conditions that were recommended by the Planning Commission. The Edwards variance, it continues to be tabled until next month. You also have in your packet a project status update that the planning staff will begin providing on a monthly basis. If you flip past the minutes, you'll see the workshop recap, and it's the page following that says permit report at the top. And so if you'll just take a minute to take a look over this document here, and then if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to tell them, the staff, that I appreciate what you did on this. It's been
Thank you.
very helpful, and I really know you had went to a lot of work, and I appreciate it very much.
Good, thank you.
For you that don't know it in the crowd, tonight is Victoria's last night. She's going somewhere for more money.
She's leaving us. Well, you leave us.
Crazy woman.
Well, I've accepted a position with the city of Pensacola, so, and I'll begin that next week. That does bring me to an item for a little bit later on in the agenda, but we may want to talk about possibly postponing a little bit the workshop while the staff transitions.
All right. We probably wouldn't get much accomplished if we don't, right?
Yeah, I would say do it on a month-to-month basis, and that way you don't push it back too far. So I would say at this time, maybe push it back to March, and then see where you are at the next meeting.
So you're gonna bring it up later?
Yeah, I can make that recommendation later on.
All right.
So the new document that we're looking at, that you said, what are we looking at?
So what that is it's just an update for you guys every month of any file. Those are mostly recent files, so they don't go back all that far quite yet. But what we wanted to start doing was having a status update for each of those so that you can see where they are in the process. And then once they're complete, then we close them out and you won't see them on that chart anymore.
These are ones that we have seen, this is not just routine.
No, this would be mostly things that you have seen. You'll see one that might have been through a general development review that maybe did not come to you, but just something that we thought you should be aware of.
As long as it's active, we'll see it.
Yes,
Because that's
so
what-
once
I
they're
think
closed
that's
out,
what-
like the future land use map amendment that we had recently, that was complete, so you don't see it there anymore because it's complete.
I think this will help the question that Mr. Ackerman had and the one that I had on another place down. I think if we have this, we're looking at it.
Yes.
We see what we're,
Yep, that's the purpose, yep. And then if you see anything that doesn't seem correct, you can advise us accordingly.
This permit, that looks like a pretty good idea. Don't you think? All right, any questions? Do you have anything else for the Board of County Commissioners?
That would be it for that report.
All right. So are we into new business?
Yes, we are.
We're into new business, the January workshop, a recap.
Okay, so this is just an overview of what we discussed at the last workshop. If you flip back a page from where we were with the permit report, you'll see a recap. Went through just a general summary of what we discussed. If you'll just take a minute to look over this and let me know if you have any questions or any additions or corrections.
Anybody see any corrections or changes?
I don't see anything.
No? Nobody? Do we take a motion on this or accept it the way it is or?
It's just, yeah, we're just wanting a consensus.
Consensus.
Yeah, no need for a motion.
Throw it out. Okay. All in favor, is that a good idea? Very good. I hear one good idea. I hear two.
Yes.
Three.
I think it's a good idea, and when I read the minutes, I wasn't at the workshop. The only one I had a question about was the discontinuation of environmental sensitive lands. Will that meet challenges down the way?
I couldn't hear what was it?
The question on discontinuing the designation of environmental land just because of features but not the intent to preserve. Will that hit a snag down the road someplace? Because if I have features, that does create environmentally sensitive land, then I can do with it what I want to. Is that going to,
Not necessarily, because there are buffering requirements, and that was what was discussed, is they're protected. And so the reason that all we're doing is changing the way that we're looking at these, that you wouldn't have to necessarily put them into a land use district, where you would be limiting how the property could be used. But you would still have those protections. So they would still have to be buffered, you'd have to comply with state, federal regulations, local regulations as it applies.
okay? I wasn't putting that because it gives me a chance to save my land if I want to, but it kind of gives me a chance to use that land where now I may can't. That's what I'm thinking to me.
Yes, so it would give you more options for using it. Possibly,
And-
depending on what kind of features you have.
Opposed to that.
And then also, a lot of these features can change over time, so if you're designating it into a district, that means that the county has to update that. And to change those designations, or really they should be, based on where they are in the present time.
Any other questions? All right, I guess we're all right with it. Everybody okay? All right. Unanimous.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the review of hot topic areas. Now, we're presenting this for you in preparation for the next workshop that you'll have. These are some areas, if you'll go, that's a page past the permit report, and you'll see it's green color. We have a list here, which is, it's the same list that we presented to you a few months ago. Only we've tried to give a little bit more background on some of these. And basically what we wanted you to do is to just take a look at some of these areas and pick maybe 2, 3, 4 that you'd like to discuss more in depth at the workshop.
Well, we are going to kind of hold back on this now,
Okay,
the
so
workshop.
So what I would suggest is that you postpone the workshop, but you may want to go ahead and start talking about what you want to put on your agenda for that workshop. But I would recommend that you take it month by month. Maybe push it back to March this month, and then just see as the staff transitions.
So we're going to wait till the next person comes here and do that?
Yes, I won't be here for the next January workshop that was scheduled. I'm beginning the new position next month, next week, so I won't be here for that one, so
All right,
we will have a little bit of a transition during that time.
all right. Do we have somebody to take your place yet?
It will be a regional planning council
There will
planner,
be somebody in there?
yes.
Okay.
We have a meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock to discuss that, me and the regional plan.
All right, very good.
So we're being asked to take a couple of days later.
Are we going to pick these hot tops now, or are we going to wait till the next meeting?
I'm able to discuss it with you today if you'd like me to. It's up to you, but I would suggest that you go ahead and start to set the agenda.
I see tax delinquency and pending code enforcement drives change. Is an important issue.
Okay.
Tax delinquency and pending code enforcement cases is an issue to move forward for any applications to land use change.
Okay.
Easements and local roads.
Okay, easements and local roads.
I like the residential medium lot size.
Okay.
What is that lot size at?
That's gonna be
It's the first one.
first one.
Page.
I got it, okay. So there's 4 items.
We have 3 so far. So
Three so
far,
far.
we have residential density, minimum lot sizes, we have easement and local roads, and tax delinquency and pending code enforcement cases and liens.
Well, I see we haven't done nothing about this bicycle thing and the parking thing. We haven't done nothing about that yet.
Okay, so is that one you'd like to discuss at the next?
Do I see it in here? No, I don't.
It's underneath
It's parking. Review parking standards and compare with neighboring jurisdictions.
I think so, because I think that may come up again.
Okay. Okay, so we have 4 right now. Is there any others?
We had a 5th one,
Okay,
neighborhood commercial footage residential area. Page 1, the very last item.
okay.
And not to just, we can add them all if we keep on, and not to add another, but just, the thing that we've dealt with about 3 times in the last couple of years has been the buffering exemptions and special exceptions and things like that. I see it's on here.
And so some of the common variances that you see may be ones that you want to look at. So the two that I see that are very, very common are the landscape buffering, and then also landscape buffering, and which one else do we have? And the subdivisions, the minor subdivisions, just the way that it's worded in the comprehensive plan may be something that you guys want to take a look at. Obviously, you're not going to be able to discuss these all in one workshop, so it just depends, you know, and you guys could schedule another workshop to discuss more of them, but.
Yeah, why don't we keep it small so we can get through it? And it's not so much, you know, fall asleep. So which ones do we have now? We have residential density, that's the first one. We have the fourth one on the by easement and the local roads, that's on the bottom of that. We have parking. And we have tax delinquency and pending code enforcement cases. Do we have another one?
And the neighborhood commercial maximum square footage in residential areas.
That should be probably enough for the first meeting.
Yes. Okay. Is there any other questions or concerns with any of these items?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, so that pretty much sums up the review of the hot topic areas and the identification of the February workshop items. Now, did you want to entertain a motion to postpone the next workshop until March? We have a date of March 21st would be the...
March what?
March 21st would be the 2 Tuesdays after your regular meeting.
Sound good to me.
Postpone it to March 21st. All in favor?
Can I have a second?
Wait a second.
Second.
Unanimous.
Okay.
March 21st. Okay. Now we have, let's see, should we proceed to, we have some people who want to talk, right, on hot topics?
Sure.
Should we
Yep.
bring them in here now?
Absolutely.
All right. You want to come on up, state your name? Jim? Yeah. Come on up. Good. No, Jim, the guy behind you. No, Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Before Jim talks, let's, what can we actually do about this right here, Victoria? Can we take any action on this, change it, do anything to it? What's the procedure?
I'm not sure what's being proposed right now. Is this,
This is the word shall.
okay, so let's, Mr. Jim can,
Okay, well.
Can speak and then I can respond.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Go ahead, Mr. Jim.
Okay. You recall last month I mentioned that our 159 acre project down at Highway 79 and Pate Pond had come to a halt over the issues of the conservation designations and wetlands. And there was an issue about interpretation of the comp plan and what shall meant. So I've provided those extracts for you there. And we've got a disconnect, I think, between the comp plan requirements and the normal sequence that development occurs. Now, typically, you would do the land use first. Sometimes you'll do the land use in conjunction with a development order. But the sequence is you get your land use right, then you go to work on the requirements for the development order. And those are fairly massive and expensive in terms of engineering and design and so forth. You get into stormwater planning and a number of things. So the development order is the beginning of having authority to do something, because it says if you do these things, you can then go ahead and do your project. Now the last step in this three-step process is getting the permits. And the development order may have some permits approved at the time the development order is approved, and there may in fact be conditions with the development order that says this is subject to getting DEP permits or Corps of Engineer permits. So we kind of got tangled up with the Vernon project, getting into requirements for permitting and requirements for development order, and what we set out to do was get a land use change. So what I've suggested here is that you may want to consider passing a resolution in-house as guidance to your planning staff that says, in effect, we'll meet the requirements of the comp plan, but we want to keep in mind which phase we're in. Are we doing land use? Are we doing development order? Or are we into permitting? And that will make it easier, I think, for the staff to keep it straight. So we now are roughly 2 months behind on that project. And we didn't anticipate, of course, the change in planning staff. So that's going to put us back. But we would like to put the large-scale land amendment back on the table and move on to the neighborhood information meetings. And then the public hearing before the Planning Commission and the public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners for large scale. So depending on how Victoria's replacement gets in here and gets organized, will you have any overlap with them at all?
I probably will not.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at wanting to be in as soon as we know who the new planning person is and try to get this project back on target. We looked at the possibility of trying to expedite a amendment to the comp plan, talked to some land use attorneys and planners, and this appears to be the most efficient way, is that you, through this resolution, define your intent to the planning staff, and that puts an end to it right there. Doesn't need to be ratified by the county commission, doesn't need to go to DEO. It's simply you said this is our priority and we want to move forward. And that won't interfere at all with the big review you have underway of the comp plan and the land development code. We just leave the words in the comp plan the way they are, and you'll set the priority in line with how land development goes. Land use, development order, permitting, construction, and eventually an occupancy permit if it's appropriate. So that's my suggestion.
Let me ask you this. If we made a motion to approve the intent without the resolution,
Sure, a motion will work fine.
What you really want us to do is that you want us to approve the wetland survey and all that. Instead of putting it at the first, when you first start out and spend all that money, you want us to put it back before the permitting.
It comes normally as a condition of the development order, and you have to resolve it before you can get the permits.
Are you asking for a land use designation change there?
Well, we are, yes, for that particular property.
Yes, that's what they're requesting is a land use change. That's the point that they're at right now. And the discrepancy is that in the comp plan, it requires that all wetlands are designated within the conservation land use district. So it goes hand in hand with the redesignation. And so that's the dilemma that they're getting caught up with, is that they need the designation to get the permit.
And the other aspect of it that caught my eye several weeks ago, actually, It says when shall as lands are identified for conservation. Actually, they're not definitively identified until you get into permitting and you go out there and delineate the wetlands and delineate the conservation zone with surveys. I mean, they're colored in on the maps, but those maps,
Right.
all they mean is, we think the wetlands are here. After the developer goes out and surveys them, we know where they're at. So there's almost always a two-step process. You have the early environmental impact study, which is fairly expensive, and they validate the wetlands and the conservation. And in this case, the environmental expert validated that the wetlands were not in fact where the map shows they are. So what the owner said is, when we get to the point where we're going to survey the wetlands, we'll give you the corrections for your future land use map at no cost to the county. So that's the sequence of how it actually comes out. You won't have your conservation easements and your final wetlands delineation until the permitting phase. It doesn't happen at the front, it happens at the back.
I think we've dealt with this same piece of property several times before, haven't we, on land use changes, at least
That one?
a couple of times.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
You know which one it
We
is?
had on 79 North and Pay Pond and. like
Yeah.
That V right there.
Yeah, we had it
Right,
a
yes.
commercial, and we've had it residential, we've had it,
We've had it
we've had the
4 or 5
owner try to do
different
several things on it
Yeah.
before, and it's
Yeah.
not, it may not be the same owners, I don't know if the property has changed hands or not, but we've had that, and that thing will get thigh deep, half deep in water out there.
Over half the land is wetlands.
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge for the developer to work around.
Yeah.
But they have designed it with 4 different uses and designed it around the wetlands so that the uplands can be used. But to answer your question, Roger, the long-time owner is no longer involved. The son and 2 daughters are the developer.
Okay.
I'm just trying to eliminate this confusion in the future by establishing the steps in development and relate it to the comp plan when you apply the rules.
What does the other counties do? What does Bay County do?
Bay County follows the steps I outlined. Land development, development orders, permitting, and then of course you go build and you
Well-
prove that you did it.
In many jurisdictions, they don't have this, where the wetlands and the environmentally sensitive areas go into an actual land use district. And so that's part of what we've been discussing, is taking that requirement
Out
out.
of there, yes.
And so that's the dilemma they're reaching, is that these policies require that you designate these areas into an actual land use district. And so that kind of comes at the time that you're doing a land use amendment.
Which is the wrong time.
Is,
It costs
you
thousands
just
of
said that
dollars.
on this 159 acres, we can have 2 land use districts. Is that what you just said? We would designate.
Yes, and that's been done before. That's what's been done, is flood zones, wetlands, things of that nature have been reviewed, and they've been put into a conservation land use district simply because there are wetlands there are flood zones there.
And that's not a problem. The owner can work with that, and they'll provide the surveys when they delineate the wetlands and say, here's the correct easements for the conservation, and here's the delineation for the wetlands. And then the county can correct the map, and everybody will be in agreement.
And you would do that before you ask for a land use change,
No, you do that afterwards.
after the change.
Just before the permitting.
Yeah, you get the land use up front, then you do the development order, and then you go through permitting before you build anything.
I can't,
So that would require
I don't
them to
grant-
come back and do a second land use amendment, basically. They would amend to what they ultimately wanted the property to be, and then they would come back and have to do a second land use amendment. Now, that's contingent upon them actually coming back and doing that land use amendment. I mean, because you could change that land use and still not be in compliance if they don't come back to change it.
Would that matter to us if they did it that way?
Technically, you're not complying with your plan.
Yeah, it should.
Oh, I see.
It should.
Yeah.
I'm missing something, Jim, and you did a good job. I'm just, why will I ask for a land use designation change if I don't know where everything is? Why won't I do the delineation first and then come ask for a change, and then I can identify what I want to change?
Well, and they have submitted a delineation, although it was an unstaked delineation, but they have conducted a delineation to determine where the wetlands are.
No, I'm not talking about his particular, I'm talking
Yes.
about.
No, you normally do submit an environmental impact analysis, and that includes you call it a desktop delineation based on LiDAR photographs and the general outline. And in this case, that cost just under $10,000 to have the environmental company go out there and walk the ground and verify where everything is at. And that's when they discovered that the wetlands and conservation are not where the map shows. Well, that's important in the developer's plan because he doesn't want to plan to build something where there's going to be wetlands. He's got to stay
No.
buffered back from wetlands.
When we say not where the map shows, we're referring to the national inventory
Correct.
boundaries. We're
Yeah.
referring to where the conservations are delineated on the map currently, not where they have identified based on the wetland delineation that they've done.
And this is not unusual, by the way. When we were doing the DRI with Rhythm, things were off by hundreds of feet.
If this room is a parcel of land and this has a designation, then you can change it. And our map shows that the wetlands comes all the way up to the second pew. You're saying that now, when you submit, you're going to already have that designation, and actually, they stop back at the columns back here, so you will know this is what's going to be usable, and that's what's going to be environmental.
That's right, subject to survey at a later date.
If you'll hit me enough times, I'll get it.
Okay. Well, it is confusing because the sequence of development is really tied to cost. And the developer wants to go a certain step, be sure that he's got everything, and then he'll go to the next step. That's why I talked about land use first, development order second, which is really expensive, and then permitting, which can be really expensive, and then go build it. That's the order.
So you're asking us to change portions of the comprehensive plan?
No, not asking you to change the comp plan at all. I'm asking you to issue some guidance to your planning staff that says that we want to apply the requirements of the comp plan in the order that development occurs. So you won't talk about mitigation in a land use change. You might talk about mitigation as a condition for a development order. And then you would do the mitigation permitting at the end before you could build anything.
What is staff's recommendation?
My recommendation is that I haven't seen this document before. I would suggest that staff review it with the county attorney prior to the board taking any action on it.
Your concern was the developers not coming back and following through after a change has been.
That is one of the concerns with following this methodology. The other
Can
concern
we
is that
sun-
this is not the way that it's been done in the past.
Can we sunset that change? Can we say it's only valid for X amount of months?
The problem is that you have to go through a long process. When it's a large-scale amendment, you have to go through a long process with the state in order to do a land use amendment. That's the issue, is that,
At the
you know,
state-
when they
The state level
come.
is the issue, not our local planning offices. That's what I
No,
understand.
it's not our planning office. There's statutory requirements, public hearings, and then all of the state agencies have to review it for a large scale, and then it has to come back to the county. So they'd have to go through that process, which can be a 6-month process, twice. And if they don't, then it's the response would fall back on the county to correct it, to comply with the plan requirements.
But it can be placed as a contingency or a condition in the development order that occur. and require them to report annually back to the planning department until that requirement has been met. The DRI had an annual 10-year reporting requirement as far as progression of the actual development.
Jim, of course, as many boards as you appeared before, you know the things that are never personal. And I just tell you, I've always got a fear of getting something the first time and voting on it.
Right.
I'd be reluctant just because of that. Our attorneys are, and I know you checked attorneys, and I'm sure they're very good attorneys, but sometime or another, if the county has to defend anything, our attorney, I think, needs to review it too. I would tend to favor the staff recommendation. I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense.
Well, we need to get this resolved to put the Vernon project back on track. The county's closed for development right now. If there's wetlands or conservation property involved. So it's not just this project, it's anybody else who might be looking.
And over the many years of dealing with DEP, it's much better to start in with them on your side than it is to try to catch up and correct and change, that's for sure.
And that's why developers don't object to doing the environmental impact upfront, because that's money that is an investment to them to know where the future problems are when they finally get to the point of getting permits and trying to build something.
And that comes back to the recommendation that we have been discussing in the workshop for the conservation areas. This is exactly what some of the issues are.
And all I'm saying is, rather than wait for a year while you make all these changes to the comp plan, just make an in-house policy guidance to your planning staff and say, okay, we'll amend all this when we get to the end of our big study, but in the meantime, this is what we want. I think you can supervise your staff without having to get the county commission's permission.
Is 30 days going to make a difference to you? The recommendation is for it to go through the county attorney for approval. Is 30 days that important to you?
It won't make a difference from the point of view that we've got $30,000 worth of engineering and environmental into it already. So there's not work to be done. All we need to do is resubmit the $1,000 check in the form and say, let's go. So to
Personally,
answer your
I don't have
question,
a problem with it, but I wouldn't want to approve anything without the attorney saying it's okay.
and that's fine. I would ask then if we could be advised after the attorney has reviewed it so that we can start the steps to get the package back into the planning department.
Yes.
Yeah.
You ready for a motion?
All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept this proposal pending approval by the county attorney.
I'll second that motion.
Whoa. And if he approves it, is it coming back to us?
No.
It's going, then it's,
He's off and
So it's good to go at that point. That's an excellent motion.
Yeah.
Well, can we just recommend to the board of commissioners, we don't have a loss of authority, and this is not our staff to direct that, this is the county commission staff. We send advisories to the commissioners, I think.
we send it to attorney, don't we?
I think the attorney represents the planning commission
Certainly
separately.
do.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
I'm not sure if this would have to go to the board or not.
The board's
We would
meeting
have to
tomorrow.
check with that, about that. I'm not sure about that.
And if he can do everything that he said and take it to the board without it coming back to us, I don't necessarily need to see it or want to see it again, but
So we're saying,
I shared the caution of both of you, Mr. Chairman.
so what we're saying, if it is approved, if they take it to the attorney or the county takes it to the attorney, you don't have to come back to us. Is that right?
That's my motion.
That's the motion?
That we're approving it pending county attorney approval.
We're recommending.
Yes, we're recommending it pending his approval.
So if this is not final approval, then it will go to the Board of County Commissioners either way,
Right.
with
All
your
right. I have a
recommendation
motion on
for
the floor.
approval.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous.
Thank
Thank you very much.
We'll stand by until we can put the package back on the planning department's desk.
Thank you. All right, what else do we have? Anybody else for
You have
the?
two more on, in front of you.
Are we talking about from
Mr. and Mrs. Rogers,
Rogers?
they both like to speak.
Okay, okay, Mr. Rogers? Please state your name.
My name is John Rogers. I'm married to a lady over here. She grew up in Shipley. She's Earl Gilbert's and Erie Gilbert's daughter. They live out on 1520 Earl Gilbert Road. They have passed away, and we now have a second home here in Chipley, on 1520 Earl Gilbert Road, house, and a little 200 acres in all. And I appreciate your time, Mr. Chairman, and the commissioners and the staff, but I just want to talk to you about the city's plans to install additional spray fields to dispose of their effluent. That's okay.
All right.
But back in June, my wife and I learned, just by accident, that the city was planning on buying land from Earl, from Gene Pro, 220 acres. They were paying $2.2 million for that. Our concern was that nobody knew anything about it. We found out by accident. And how it was approved that the Florida DEP was going to loan in the money to buy that land. I don't know, because there's never been any study done, no environmental impact done, or anything. So we were concerned because our land butts up to Mr. Pro's, and we can see where runoff from that waste spray field could go into our lake, and also in some parts of our property, which is mostly wetlands on that side of the property. So we expressed our concerns as far as DEP about the lack of transparency and our concerns about pollution. They came back and said our concerns were justified and pretty much stopped that deal in its tracks until the city could form, I guess, due diligence and do all the studies that Florida DEP requires before they loan you money to put in a spray field. And all the money, all this was just to buy the land. There was no money there to put in a spray field. So, it's just all a mystery to us. But anyway, they're proceeding with it. They hired Hatch-Mott and McDonald to do the studies. Part of that is to look for other means of disposal. They even talked about putting spray fields up and down I-10 on their right-of-way, plus other things. Hadn't got a report back from Hatch-Mott yet, but it's due one day. But anyway, I put a couple of packets there. One is some emails from Victoria, my wife, and there's a couple of aerial photographs. One was taken in 2010 of Gene Pro's Lake. It shows the lake's clean and clear. That's the year that the Davidson spray field started up. 6 years later, the lake looks like it is just about tatted. It's green and polluted. And you can see the runoff from the Davidson spray field would go to that lake, which at one time was wetlands. But, so we don't want that to happen to us. And like I say, the original plan was given money back in June. That didn't happen, so they have asked for extension on that loan to all the studies that we've done. That's in that packet. And the original sales agreement is in that packet, September 29, 2015. They were going to buy the land for $2.2 million. The only thing we could find was they said it'd have to perk. And again, I don't think anybody, well, I know they didn't know about it. You guys didn't know about it. Although it's going in the county. Now, I would think that would be something that y'all would be concerned about in planning, that you might have a 220 acre spray field out there somewhere, polluting neighbor's property and that type of stuff. Plus, none of the neighbors were made aware of it, and nobody else was contacted about, would you like to sell your land for $10,000 an acre? So that's all been worked out through, thankfully, now through the DEP. But to go further into the pollution that spray fields are causing, I know the residents out at Falling Waters, they have complained about that spray field, and had actually had the city to throttle back how much waste we're putting out there. I think the county is complaining about the one next to their shop. So they do cause problems. And I've got some pictures here that David Morris had taken of his place back behind his house. That's these COVID pictures. And you can see it's pretty sad that they would pollute somebody's land like that and apparently not care about it. The actual spray field, all the trees are dead. So that stuff is supposedly, I don't know what all it's got in it. I know it's got a lot of fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphates, and God knows what else. It's worse down than some other chemicals and that type stuff. So, and I presented this to the city council back on September 13th. And I've got the minutes from that meeting to show that I did do that. But my purpose here today was just to let you know that this is going on. They may not buy Gene Pro's land, they may buy somebody else's. Or they may find another means to dispose of their effluent, which would be great. But as you're the planning council, I would like for you to take a look at what's going on, and particularly why you wasn't informed. You know, I mean, this has been since 2015. And the only body that I know knows about it is people my wife and I has told. You know, we call somebody going in the front door, they know nothing about it. So just my request that you look at it and be involved in it and part of the plan. I appreciate your time.
I don't know if there's any permitting for that or not, is there?
There is permitting, and they are required to come through the county for a special exception.
So again, they haven't told you anything about it. This is recent. Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions for him? Are you saying, who took the picture, David Morris?
Yeah.
Is this David Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say,
Yes, go ahead.
as a member of this board, I've been advised not to interject or comment in these matters at this time, and I will not do so.
All right. Well, what can we do about this?
Mr. Rogers, you're asking us that in such time as we get this to come before us, you're asking us to deny it at this time.
Well, that's up to you, sir.
Like put it here, then.
You notice the land, you just talked about land use, and this will be a land use change. It's not designated as a spray field currently.
It would, this may not necessarily constitute a land use change because it's considered a utility use. Utility uses are allowed in most land use districts. However, it would have to be reviewed through a special exception development review application.
So it may not come to this, it may not be public hearings and come to this at all.
Yes, but special exceptions do require neighborhood information meetings. They require public advertisement. And they require 2 public hearings.
Which none has been done. 0.
Is this in the county or is this in the?
This property that they're talking about is in the county. However, I have had conversations with Mr. Minor in regards to this, and he says that he is still looking into other potential sites. They may look at other options other than a spray field, but that's as much information as I was able to obtain.
You're right where I am. That's all I've got. They weren't gonna do that to start with. Now, I don't really understand how that could possibly be approved by Florida DEP, that 2.2 million. $1 million of it was a gift, and they had to pay back the rest of it.
Did Davidson, is that?
I just asked y'all
277.
to talk about it and consider it and see what you might do.
Is that what that means? Where's the Davidson spray field?
9, is it? The Vernon Highway?
277.
277.
277.
North of the interstate. Yeah.
That's the, what's
And
that?
they've got one, did they not turn one in, turn the old golf course in? So
Yeah.
now we're looking at a third
Another.
spray.
We had the berries come up this week too.
Yeah,
Yeah, they said they wasn't notified.
yeah.
We found out that they haven't been using the golf course, well, we don't know how long, but a long period of time. They are now, but they were not, and I guess
Yeah,
that's
it
a
had
period
grown
of
up,
time.
had, sap has grown up around the nozzles, you know, when they wait on the turn. So, it's quite a story here, but I'm probably out of time.
I think our concern, which John was gonna speak, but I just wanna ask this one question, because I hear this man say, my concern about this is land use. Do you buy the property, start putting a spray fill in, and then come to y'all for land use? Or do you come to the planning commissioner in the front and say, look, we're fixing to put a spray fill in, can we change this land use now to utility, commercial, whatever?
No, the answer would be that you would change the land use before you develop. So before you put in the spray field, you would have to change the land use if it was required, or go through a development review procedure.
But you'd have to buy the land first.
You could buy the land first, you just couldn't
Do you
develop
have- I'm saying, do
before
have-
you go
do-
through
do-
that.
Do you have to buy it first?
You don't have to buy it first, no.
See, we see that as a whole, because we're so concerned about the pollution issue that we now see. And you've got pollution coming in from Camilton by the, I guess that's the county workshop over there, and that's spray field.
It's not.
And then you got 277 pollution there, and now our land is right off of 77 where you're four laning and developing, wanting commercial to come in. And now the spray field's gonna sit right there, and all of that is headwaters. It's the Long Pond before I-10 went through. It's cypress swamps. I mean, this is like a lot of history right there, and it all flows that way. So now we're looking, do we pollute that too, you know, in the process of it?
We'd hope the county could find other use of the land, commercial or residential or something, you know, rather than run everybody away from it, which is what will happen.
And eventually, if it hurts to the east, you'll get Blue Pond.
That's exactly
Yeah, that's
right.
right, Carl.
Because it drains that way.
What can we do about this? I mean, is our hands tied until they come for permitting?
You could just direct county staff to further look into it.
Do I hear a motion?
Look in.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to have county staff look into it
Right.
before you leave on Wednesday. Do I hear a second? Hear a second? All in favor? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, District 5 abstains.
Okay. District 5 abstains. All right, now what do we have? This.
Old business.
Old business.
So Mr. Hughes had submitted, did he not? Is
He
I don't
did, but
see
it
him
looks
here
like
anymore.
he left.
Okay,
All right.
okay, so old business,
Old
we
business.
have Catherine Parkinson, temporary use permit for the RV, just an update on that from the last meeting. We looked into this, and what we found was that the property had actually changed ownership. We sent the letter out to the current owner, and were advised that they would not need to utilize the variance anymore, and we were asked to close the variance file. You do have that letter in your packet. It's the last page of your packet.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that by doing this, we've got other things that have time limits on, okay? I want to make sure that we adhere to the time limits. Okay?
Yeah, so we do have a development order template that we're using now.
Yes.
It gives
Okay.
60 days for preliminary and a year for
Right,
final.
okay. I appreciate that.
All right. How about old business 279?
Okay, so we have been looking into this one. It does appear as though this property is entering foreclosure. It is unoccupied. I did consult with the building official who stated that they were operating under a temporary certificate of occupancy. Now they're closed. We don't think they're going to be able to fulfill the obligations. His advice, and it's my recommendation as well, is to keep the development order open, send a letter out to the bank or whoever is going to obtain ownership, as well as the real estate agent, advising them of the pending files, and then the next occupant would be required because the development order does flow with the property.
What didn't they have done? They didn't have the blacktop installed
And the landscaping.
And the
So there
landscaping.
were contingencies on their development order that they did not fulfill.
I see this listed by nations now. Nations.
Nations. Okay.
Nations
So
Realty.
what staff can do is just issue letters to the current owner, if we could find a real estate agent, just advising them that this is pending, because part of it was to incorporate it into any sales agreement. And so they should be aware that this is standing with the property.
Is there any time limit on it?
Mr. Chairman,
There was no time limit on this development
It wasn't
order.
gas station, they pulled the pumps out, pulled the tanks out.
if I may ask, in what manner do you anticipate notifying the real estate?
By certified mail.
Thank you very much.
I think that's a good thing, because if it goes with the property, if somebody else decides that that's a viable location and wants to come back, they've already got that order, they don't have to go through that
That's right.
process again, they've already got an open development order, they just got to pick up where the last one left off.
Exactly.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
That concludes our old business. The county administrator, do you have anything to say?
No, sir.
Good man. County engineer? No. Planning commission? No. County attorney? The chair, maybe say, give Miss Victoria a hand of applause for her. Thank you very much. You did a very good job.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed working with all of you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Chair motion, do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? All in favor? Thank you. Thanks for coming out.